Hey YouTube, what's going on? Mike here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the final of the Regis that came out of the Ancient Origins set. And this deck actually works really well. So this deck is going to focus around the Regirock, again from the Ancient Origins set. It has both the Rock Throw and the Unyielding Rock attack. Now, Unyielding Rock is ideally the attack that we will really be making use of. Rock Throw not so much. I mean, Rock Throw doesn't hit for a lot of damage, but it could. Sometimes when we don't have enough energy attachments, we may just opt to go for the Rock Throw. So Unyielding Rock hits for, again, a lot of damage against our opponent's EX Pokemon, but it's usually probably not going to allow us to get those big one-hit knockouts. I mean, let's take a look at the total damage output. So if our opponent's active Pokemon happens to be an EX, that is going to be 120 damage, right? With the strong energy, that's going to be 140 damage if it has a single strong energy. With the fighting stadium, that's 160 damage, and that's pretty much it. That's it for the most part, unless we see lots of strong energies attached to the Regirock, which is a little bit unlikely. I've decided to opt for the Focus Sash as opposed to the Muscle Band. Now, you guys might be thinking, well, with the Muscle Band, you can hit for 180 damage and get that magic 180. With the Focus Sash, you can only hit for 160. Well, again, potentially, these are just some theoretical numbers I'm throwing out there. But Focus Sash, I feel like should be the priority because it's more important for us to preserve the life of our Pokemon. Regirock does take a couple of turns to ultimately get loaded up and ready to go. So Focus Sash, I feel like, is just such an important card in this deck that we will be running 3 copies of it. Now, don't get me wrong, I definitely do want to get those one-hit knockouts, and how we're going to do that is we're going to be doing so by running the Bat line. So we have a total of 3 Zubats, 3 Golbats, and 3 Crobats. Again, you guys are quite familiar with what these Pokemon are capable of. Surprise Bite allows us to stack 3 damage counters on one of our opponent's Pokemon. The Sneaky Bite allows us to stack 2 damage counters on one of our Pokemon as well. So these are some just fantastic Pokemon. Work very well with the Regirock, and at this point, I mean, these Pokemon allow us to compensate for the fact that we often won't be getting those one-hit knockouts. Also keep in mind that sometimes we will be attacking with the Landorus, making use of its Shout of Power attack beforehand to load up that Regirock, and then ultimately we're going to go right ahead and bring out the Regirock. So Landorus is another very important Pokemon, especially when we have a lot of our fighting energy cards in that discard pile. So we are running a total of 3 copies of it. Also, what I like about Landorus is that it has a different weakness as opposed to the Regirock. So our Landorus is weak to water type Pokemon, whereas our Regirock is weak to those grass type Pokemon, and of course our bats are weak to those lightning type Pokemon. So we have a lot of variability going on in there. Our very last Pokemon, guys, is the Shaman EX. It has the setup ability, and this is just for some draw support. Again, you guys know quite well what this Pokemon is capable of. Just really nice, allows us to get again, those cards, especially in those desperate situations where all we have in our hand is an Ultra Ball and 2 relatively useless cards. That's when the Shaman EX really pulls its weight. So we are running a total of 2 copies of this respective Pokemon in our deck. We have a total of 2 Karinas. These sort of act like Ultra Balls as well, allowing us to grab any fighting Pokemon that we need. And on top of that, we're able to grab onto any item cards as well in our deck. So Karina is just a really nice supporter card. We are running 2 copies of it in our deck. One of the cards that we can use to grab those out would be the Ultra Ball. Again, the reason why we're running quite a few Ultra Balls is because we have a lot of variability in our Pokemon. I mean, again, we can use Karina to grab out those fighting Pokemon, but the Ultra Balls will allow us to grab onto those Bats and those Shaman EXs as well. So Ultra Ball, just a really nice card. We are running a total of 3 copies of it in our deck. We're also running a total of 4 copies of the Super Scoop Up. This is mainly for us to recycle our bats so that we can stack those damage counters all over again. Also, we can make use of the Super Scoop Up to bring out a badly damaged Pokemon into our hand, and then we can go right ahead and lay it back down. And of course, to bring those Shaman EXs back into our hand and make use of that setup ability all over again. Lots and lots of flexibility to the Super Scoop Up. Definitely one of the nicest cards in the game, I would say. Definitely one of my favorite as well. We'll be running a total of 4 copies of that in our deck. We also have a total of 3 VS Seekers to allow us to reuse all of our supporter cards. So we have a single Ace Trainer, 3 Birches, and 4 Sycamores for some draw support. We also have a total of 2 copies of the Lysander to allow us to lure out any of the opponent's bench Pokemon. Again, we have quite a few energy cards as well. So we have 5 Fighting, 4 Strong, and 3 Double Colorless Energy. We have a total of 3 Fighting Stadiums. This will allow us to increase the total damage output of both the Landoruses and the Regirocks. And finally, we have a total of 2 copies of the Silent Lab. Now, Silent Lab is mainly for us to deal with those particularly problematic Pokemon, such as the what's it called? The Aegis/EX. Aegis/EX is by far one of the most problematic Pokemon that we could ever encounter, and Silent Lab just does such a fantastic job at shutting it down. I mean, we're able to take care of the majority of Pokemon for the most part. Pyro could be a little bit problematic, but again, we do have those bats, so they should be able to relatively effectively nullify the Pyroar for the most part and allow us to take care of it. So I felt like 2 Silent Lab would be a little bit better than the Hex Maniac. I mean, at the end of the day, we are ultimately able to win the Stadium Wars for the most part, because most of our opponents will be running at the maximum a total of 4 Stadium cards, where we are running a total of 5. So we'll be sticking with 2 copies of the Silent Lab. Believe me, it's just such a helpful card. It has allowed me to overcome quite a few different decks with it. Allowed me to effectively shut down Shaman EX, for example. Again, if it could backfire on us as well, but oftentimes we use it right after we bring out those Shaman EXs, and oftentimes we do it effectively, just shutting down a lot of our opponent's Pokemon special abilities. So we are now going to be finding ourselves an opponent. Again, I have to say that the Regirock has been impressing me just by how well it has been performing, at least with respects to the deck I built around it. Personally though, I still prefer Hawlucha as a potent anti-EX counter. I mean, just given the fact that it's extremely energetically efficient, only needs a single energy to run effectively. But still, we'll see how things go. Looks like our opponent is running a water type deck. So our landers may not see a whole lot of action, so I may be a little bit reluctant with respect to bringing those out. I guess I'm going to start off with the Zubat. It's really unfortunate though that we don't have the Zubat from the Plasma Storm set, which has the free retreat. So we'll see how things go. I'm gonna hold off on the Shaman EX, of course. I hope I can draw into a Karina or something, guys. And I hope our Zubat doesn't suffer a premature death. Alright, so we're gonna see the Kyurem EX. This is actually a bit of a good sign, because Kyurem EX is a really slow Pokemon. Usually takes quite a few turns to get loaded up. I've seen of people making it, using it in combination with the Primal Groudon EX to sort of speed up those energy attachments, but we'll see if our opponent's deck is fast enough. I mean, our deck is actually relatively fast. Those bats stack those damage counters that landers can get going in a single energy, and then of course those Regirocks. Well, Regirock is by far the slowest Pokemon in our deck, so okay, it looks like we're gonna see a Politoed deck as well. I'm pretty sure Politoed actually works really well. Alright, so we're gonna get a Regirock. Okay, so pretty good start actually. So I'm gonna go and attach the Double Colors Energy, the Fighting Stadium, yeah, and let's go and actually lay down the Shaman EX as well. Draw into some additional cards, and we have the Karina and an Ultra Ball. So I'm gonna make use of the Karina. We're gonna go right ahead and grab onto a Regirock, and I'm gonna go and grab onto an Ultra Ball, guys. I would like one more Zubat, and hopefully we can get that one-hit knockout during our next turn. So let's go right ahead and use the Ultra Ball. Give up an Ultra Ball from our hand, and the Professor Birch's Observation as well, because I will simply be making usage of the VS Seeker during our next turn if I really have to. So let's go right ahead, look for one more Zubat. Looks like one of our Zubats is prized, but that's okay. 2 should be more than enough for the most part. Let's go right ahead and bring it out. Bring out a Regirock as well, and that is going to be the end of our turn. I mean, our Zubat should be relatively safe and out of harm's way. Since that Kyurem EX does still need 2 more energy cards to be able to attack. We're going to see Level Ball. Looks like it's going to be Poliwhirl this time. All our opponent needs is the, the Politoed, and he could actually start dishing out lots and lots of damage. I mean, those Politoads could actually be relatively problematic. We're going to see that Birch's Observation, a Tails again. Our opponent definitely getting very unlucky with those flips. Let's hope that our luck is a little bit better than his, and hopefully we get a heads during that next turn. Hopefully we can retreat that Zubat as well. I would like to start attacking with that Regirock. And our opponent not able to attach another energy card. That is very unfortunate. We're going to go and make use of the Super Scoop Up, and awesome, we're going to get the head, so we're going to go and actually bring that Zubat back into our hand. Let's go and lay down the VS Seeker for the Professor Birch's Observation, sorry, not the Karina. I would like a new hand if possible. We're going to get a Tails as well. Looks like on both ends we just keep getting Tails. Ace Trainer, are we really going to need it? I mean, if I bring out a Crobat, we can hit for 140 damage and 20 damage with a Golbat. Yeah, actually I'm going to go right ahead and do that. So let's go and get rid of the Landers and the Ace Trainer. We're going to go right ahead and bring out that first Golbat. We should be able to knock out that Kyurem EX during our next turn by bringing out the Crobat. So that is 2 damage counters and 140 damage. So again, that Regirock can be very impressive. It's just really nice that it is a fighting type Pokemon, can take advantage of the Fighting Stadium and of course the strong energies. Had to be a strong energy, that would have been a knockout for us. Looks like we're going to see the Poliwrath, but again, I'm pretty sure that we're probably going to see Politoed in there as well, because I mean, these Poliwrath decks work the best with the Politoed in it as well. So if our opponent is running the Rare Candy, we may see the Politoed. Nope, looks like it's going to be a Poliwhirl one more time. And I don't think our opponent's going to attach anymore. Yeah, there's no more water energy cards that are going to go onto that Kyurem EX. And we're going to go right ahead and get our first knockout. So that is 2 prize cards for us, guys. And let's see which Pokemon our opponent decides to bring out. It's probably going to be that Poliwrath, I'm thinking. Yeah, so unfortunately for us, we can only hit it for 60 damage. We can't even take advantage of the Fighting Stadium. So we're going to go right ahead and attach the Double Colors Energy on to that Regirock. I'm going to go and make use of the Professor Birch's observation again. Hopefully our luck is a little bit better this time around. Yes, we're gonna get that heads. That is always kind of nice. I'm gonna go and make use of the super scoop up, and we're gonna get a heads. Awesome, awesome. Really loving these super scoop ups. We're gonna go and bring out a Golbat, stack 2 damage counters on to that Poliwrath, and then we're gonna go right ahead and hit it for 60 damage with the unyielding rock attack. We should be able to knock out the opponent's Poliwrath during our next turn. I mean, at the most, our opponent can only make use of the steamroll attack, hitting us for 60 damage and 30 damage to one of our bench Pokemon. I will probably attack with the Regirock to finish off our opponent's Poliwrath, and then that bat is probably going to be used to stack some damage counters onto our opponent's benched Poliwhirl. So I guess it makes sense that our opponent is running the Poliwrath in combination with the Kyurem EX. I mean, given the fact that when the Politoads do come out, our opponent's Poliwhirls and Poliwraths are able to make usage of all of their attacks, and the Double Colors Energy attacks count as essentially nothing. So that's always kind of nice, and that would make sense because it would give our opponent enough time to slowly load up that Kyurem EX. Yes, looks like I was right. We are finally going to see that Politoad and the Rough Sea Stadium card. Alright, so this may actually cause a change in the tide of the game. Submission can hit us for 130 damage. That is 10 more damage than enough to knock out that Regirock. Yeah, so I feel like I'm going to have to knock it out during our next turn. I'll definitely be getting rid of the Rough Seas, and I'm hoping, really hoping we can get a Fighting Energy card or a Strong Energy card such that we can knock out that Poliwrath. So, well, actually, it's going to hit itself for 30 damage. Okay, so we don't actually need to stack any damage counters onto it. Regirock should hopefully be able to do the job for us. Let's go right ahead and bring out the Crobat. I'm going to stack some damage counters on to that Politoad. Let's go and bring out the Fighting Stadium. Just for the sake of safety, guys, I think making usage of the Professor Sycamore would actually be the way to go. We're actually going to give up a pretty useful hand, but that's okay. I just do want to ensure that we do knock out that Poliwrath. Yeah, so it feels like it paid off us getting rid of that hand. Let's go and bring out a Golbat as well. Stack 2 damage counters on to that Politoad. I'm going to go and attach the Strong Energy card onto that Regirock Unyielding Rock. That is going to hit our opponent for 80 damage and allow us to snatch up one more prize card. So we have a nice prize card advantage. Focus Sash we draw it right after we knocked out that Poliwrath. But it's okay. I think our Regirock should be able to survive. Our opponent could put us to sleep, so that could of course be problematic. We're going to see an Ultra Ball, probably going to see a Poliwag, I believe. I'm thinking maybe a Shaman EX? Yes, Shaman EX, of course. Shaman EX, just such a versatile and flexible Pokemon, just useful in any sort of deck, regardless of what you're really running. So we're going to see Poliwag as well. So our opponent was definitely smart in grabbing onto that Shaman EX. I'm hoping those Articunos don't get those big one-hit knockouts. I think for the most part, we should be safe outside of that one-hit knockout range. Our opponent would have to get really, really lucky to perform a one-hit knockout on us. So we're going to see Chilling Sigh. Are we going to wake up? No, we will not. That is problematic. So I'm gonna go and I guess attach the Focus Sash. I definitely don't want to use the Sycamore, guys. So I'm gonna go and attach the Double Colors Energy on to that Shaman EX, I guess. Or the Crobat. You know what? Actually, Crobat, we may actually see it a little bit in action. And I'm actually going to go right ahead and well, Politoad only needs a single energy card to be able to retreat. But yeah, let's actually go right ahead and bring it out and then end the turn. Focus Sash, I'm going to hold off on it. I don't think any of our opponent's Pokemon could knock us out in a single attack. Actually, we could see that Poliwrath and a switch. So maybe I should have attached the Focus Sash. I don't know. I'm hoping that it's not a mistake on our end, because we are indeed going to see that Poliwrath, but are we going to see a switch card? All our opponent needs is an energy card. Yeah, I should have attached that Focus Sash. I'm sincerely regretting it right now, and we're going to pay a pretty heavy price for it. I mean, okay, we're seeing the Articuno instead? Are you serious? Actually, sorry, our opponent could have only made use of the Steamroll attack, so Submission couldn't have even been used right now. Okay, so I guess I did sort of overlook things. And awesome, we have a Crobat. I'll definitely be bringing that out to stack 3 damage counters onto the opponent's Politoad. I guess at this point I don't want to take any more risks, so we will be attaching the Focus Sash on to that Regirock. I guess I'm going to go and make use of the Sycamore, guys. We need a better hand. We need to start loading up some of our bench Pokemon as well. So we have a Regirock. Let's go and make use of the Super Scoop Up. We're going to get a Tails, of course. Let's go and attach a Fighting Energy card on to that Regirock. And that is going to be it for this turn. Our Regirock is finally going to wake up. But what's troubling about that Articuno is that it does have the fighting resistance, so that can make life a little bit more difficult for us. We do have both the Silent Lab and the Professor Birch's observations in our hand. I think I'd like to make usage of the Professor Birch's observation during our next turn. I mean, I do want to win the Stadium Wars, especially since I already am aware of the fact that our opponent is running the Rough Seas Stadium card, which again could serve to be quite problematic. How many of our Stadium cards are in the discard pile? So that is 3 Stadium cards already in that discard pile, yeah. So I have to be careful. I don't want to prematurely discard anymore. Come on, finally we're going to wake up. Man, we're getting just really unlucky with that Articuno. And it looks like our opponent will go on to concede the game. I don't know. I mean, our opponent was getting pretty lucky, so I think he could have maybe pulled a comeback if he really wanted to. Although we did have a pretty nice advantage. So we're going to go and find ourselves an additional opponent. Hopefully this time around it's going to be a deck more heavily composed of EX Pokemon. I'm thinking based on our opponent's deck composition that it is going to be a pretty heavy EX deck that we'll be facing this time around. Most likely a Steel-type deck, I'm thinking. So yeah, I think it might actually be a Mega Rayquaza EX deck. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm thinking that is a likely scenario. So we're going to start off with the Regirock as our active Pokemon and lay down the Zubat onto our bench. Let's see what our opponent is going to start off with. Okay, so it's the Aegislash-EX. Again, the Pokemon that I told you guys would have been the most problematic for us. Luckily, we are running 2 Silent Labs, and we are running a fair amount of bats as well, so shouldn't be too problematic for us. I think I may still go on to actually attach that Double Colorless Energy on to that Regirock. Our opponent is going to start off with the Acrobike, getting a Steel Energy card in that discard pile. And sorry, just have the hiccups. And we're going to see that Ultra Ball getting rid of both the Hex Maniac and an Ultra Ball, possibly, yes. Looks like we're going to see that first Bronzor. That Energy Acceleration is probably going to come out shortly as well. So I'm going to go and attach the Double Colorless Energy on to that Regirock. I'm going to hold off on our hand for now. Let's actually keep that Silent Lab and then end the turn. I'm actually going to bring it out during our next turn, and then I'm going to go right ahead and make use of the Professor Birch's observation. So I feel like that Aegislash probably won't be able to attack just yet. We're going to see a Trainer's Mail. And what is our opponent going to draw into? Hopefully nothing. I mean, there are of course those instances where Trainer's Mail is absolutely useless. Yeah, I think our opponent didn't get anything, or he may have actually held off on it because he just wanted to make use of that Sycamore instead. So that is also very understandable. Again, that Aegislash-EX would still need 2 more energy cards to be able to attack. At this point, only a single energy card. Hopefully we don't see Muscle Band. Muscle Band could spell the end for a Regirock during our next turn, but I am really hoping to take our opponent off guard and actually attack it with, of course, us ultimately laying down that Silent Lab and then attacking with that Regirock. So again, at this point, we're just waiting to see what our opponent decides to do. I'd love to get some additional bats as well. I'm really hoping for a heads during that next Professor Birch's observation, or at the very least, if we're going to get a tails, I'm hoping that we do draw onto either a fighting or a strong energy card. Looks like we're going to see a switch. Definitely not what I was expecting, but we may actually see another switch if our opponent has one in his hand once he does retrieve one of those steel energy cards. So are we? Yeah, so we're going to see the escape rope. Looks like our opponent's going to bring out that Zubat. So that was a little bit unexpected, but I guess it's understandable. I mean, at the very least, it will still allow our opponent to snatch up a single prize card. So we're going to bring out that Regirock. Let's go. Oh, and we just drew into the Crobat. Are you serious? Yeah, well, oh well. So let's go right ahead and lay down the Silent Lab. Professor Birch's observation. We're going to get a heads. That is definitely very nice. And a Focus Sash to top it off. Awesome. Looks like we just drew onto a fantastic hand. Let's go right ahead. Unyielding Rock. That is 140 damage, guys. Should be able to get rid of the opponent's Aegislash-EX, hopefully, during our next turn. I mean, he could, of course, get rid of the Silent Lab, and that would allow that Aegislash-EX to survive. So we're going to see a Trainer's Mail. What will our opponent draw into? Looks like it's going to be an Ultra Ball. We may just see Shaman EX. I believe we did see some normal type Pokemon as well on our opponent's deck composition, so that Muscle Band is going to go into that discard pile. Our opponent is well aware of the fact that Regirock will be able to survive an attack thanks to that magnificent Focus Sash, which again I'm really happy that we did decide to run in our deck. So let's see what our opponent ultimately decides to grab into. Again, it could be the Shaman EX, which I'm hoping our opponent does, and then he completely realizes that we have the Silent Lab out at play, and that was a foolish mistake on his part. So let's see. Again, I'm just waiting to see what our opponent is grabbing with that Ultra Ball. It looks like it's actually going to be a Lugia EX. Alright, I'm a little bit disappointed with that. Again, I was desperately hoping for a Shaman EX. We're going to see a Battle Compressor, so that Lugia EX will probably start hitting us for quite a bit of damage soon. But at the very least, we will be able to get rid of by far the biggest threat that our deck could ever come across, and that is the Aegislash-EX. That Mighty Shield ability is just so fantastic, so devastating, ultimately shuts down lots and lots of different decks. So Let's see what we're able to draw into next time, guys. Sorry, during our next hand. I'm hoping it's something useful. I think I'm actually going to go and make use of the Sycamore just to ensure that we draw into 7 cards. I mean, Professor Birch's observation can, of course, be a little bit unreliable at times. Regirock is able to survive. Again, it would have gotten knocked out most likely had our opponent made use of the Muscle Band. So, yeah, I guess let's go right ahead and make use of that Sycamore for a brand new hand. We're going to go and attach a Focus Sash on to that Regirock and a Strong Energy card as well. I guess I'm going to hold off on the Ultra Ball for now, guys. I may just use it to grab onto a Shaman during our next turn. Let's go and use Unyielding Rock. That is a massive 140 damage again, and that will be 2 prize cards for us to boot. So that's kind of nice. We have a Karina in our hand. Again, I do desperately want the, what's it called, the double colors energy. I do want to teach that Lugia EX a lesson and hit it for lots and lots of damage. I mean, we could of course attack with the rock throw attack as well. I mean, we're not actually going to knock out that Lugia EX in a single attack instead anyways, so it may actually pay off if we don't take a risk. So that Arrow Ball is going to knock us out, hit us for exactly 100 damage. Definitely more than overkill, I would say. So let's see. I'm thinking, guys, about what I would really like to do at this point. I mean, it's not too problematic if we just make use of the Rock Throw attack, right? Because we could still hit our opponent's Lugia EX for 40 damage, and we should be able to knock it out. Yeah, so you know what? I'm going to go and attach a Fighting Energy card on to that Regirock. Let us go and make use of the Karina, and I'm going to go and grab onto a Landorus. Yeah, because I feel like we do need some energy acceleration soon. And I guess a Focus Sash as well. We're probably going to go and attach that onto that Landorus. So let's go right ahead and bring it out. Attach the Focus Sash on to that Landorus. And I mean, I feel like Silent Lab is probably a better stadium card to have out at play right now. But then again, you know what, Fighting Stadium, I think we should bring it out. So let's go right ahead and lay that down. Let's go and use that Ultra Ball, get rid of the Super Scoop Up and the Crobat from our hand. Look for a Zubat, which we're going to go right ahead and lay down on to that bench. Let's go and use Rock Throw. That is going to be 60 damage, and we'll be able to knock out that Lugia EX during our next turn. So things are going pretty good right now, actually. We're going to see Seismitoad EX as well. That could potentially prevent us from making use of any of our item type cards. We're going to see a Trainer's Mail. Is our opponent going to be able to get anything useful? Yes, he will get the Professor Birch's observation, but will he get a Heads? And no, he will not, so that's always kind of nice. How many of our energy cards? Okay, our opponent still has 2 more Steel energy cards in that discard pile, so that Dialga EX could definitely prove to be menacing, but again, normally it would be able to perform one-hit knockouts on us, but we do have those Focus Sashes which are really paying off, and again, that's precisely why I decided to run them as opposed to the, the Muscle Band. Okay, so Lugia EX can hit us for currently just 80 damage, but again, our opponent is well aware of the fact that we do have those Focus Sashes, and a lot of players have now been negligent. They don't really tend to run the Starling Megaphone, so I feel like we should be relatively safe from our opponent just Starling Megaphoning us. So we may actually see that Seismitoad EX make an appearance. No, it looks like that Lugia EX is instead going to attack us. 40 HP to boot on that Regirock. Let's go and make use of that Sycamore for a brand new hand. We're going to get a Zubat. That's always kind of nice. We're going to go right ahead and bring out an additional Regirock, guys. And I could make use of the Ultra Ball. I mean, I don't really think we're going to make usage of the Ace Trainer, because we do have a pretty big advantage with respect to our prize cards as opposed to our opponent. So let's go right ahead, get rid of the Landorus and the Ace Trainer as well. We're going to go and grab onto a Crobat. I'm actually going to have to go and start stacking some damage counters onto our opponent's Pokemon soon. Let's go and make use of that VS Seeker before we get item locked. Again, never know when that item lock could come into play. I'm going to go and bring out the Golbat, stack 2 damage counters on to that opponent's Seismitoad EX in case he does want to bring it out. And then we're going to go and make use of the Unyielding Rock, 140 damage, and that is going to be 2 more prize cards for us. Alright, so yeah, looks like I was right, that Seismitoad EX is indeed going to make its appearance. I think I'm probably going to bring out the Landorus, guys. And I'm going to go and use it to effectively fetch out a couple of our Fighting Energy cards and start latching them on to this Regirock. So again, we have a pretty good advantage right now. Our opponent definitely running a very solid deck as well. Metal decks, definitely not something to underestimate. Can hit for lots and lots of damage. So we'll see how things go. Looks like we're going to see Faded Town as well. That's not really going to negatively affect us for the most part. Will slightly decrease the total damage output of our Pokemon's attacks though. So that is always something to consider. And what is nice is that our opponent's still going to have to knock out a total of 3 more of our Pokemon to snatch up those remaining prize cards. So I think I'm going to hold off on any Shaman EXs at this point. Let's go right ahead and bring out this Landorus. I'm going to go and attach a Fighting Energy card onto it. We do have a Fighting Energy card in our hand. How many energy cards do we have in that discard pile? No, I think it's relatively safe if we make usage of this Sycamore. So let's go and bring out a Landorus. Sycamore, and we are gonna get a bat. That's awesome. And on top of that, we're gonna get a fighting stadium as well. So let's go right ahead and bring that out. Shout of Power, that is gonna be 40 damage and allows us to grab onto a fighting energy card and latch it onto that Regirock. So if our opponent does not switch out that Seismitoad EX, or if he doesn't make usage of a card such as the Ace Trainer, we should be able to win during our next turn. I mean, that Regirock would be able to hit our opponent's Pokemon for more than enough damage. Yeah, so it looks like we're actually going to be able to win the game, guys. So that is going to be it. Yeah, so that is going to be it. So let's go right ahead and retreat, bring out the Regirock, and attach the double colorless energy onto it, and snatch up our very last two prize cards. Yeah, so as you guys can see, I'm actually quite impressed by how well the Regirock has been working, but I definitely do think that the bats play a tremendous role. I mean, stacking those damage counters are just absolutely wonderful. Let's take a quick look at the stats of the game. We hit our opponent for lots of damage, 700. He hit us for quite a bit as well, a total of 530 damage. Our opponent's MVP was definitely, of course, the Age/EX, and ours happens to be a Regirock. Anyways, that is going to be it. I hope you guys check out those annotations for either a random video or one of my previous videos as well. Also, be sure to check out my Twitter account if you guys are interested in some giveaways, interested and sort of knowing what's going on with me, any updates that I'll provide with you guys. I can also answer your questions on Twitter, so be sure to follow me. The link is in the description section down below. And yeah, so if you are new to this channel, be sure to subscribe as well. And that is going to be it. So thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.